when we're upset with someone else and we want them to feel it and we want them to be upset and frustrated and feel that experience with us, they're very likely never going to. So if we keep focusing on them and we don't let that go, we're the only ones stuck. Because look, you're not worried about what Jason thought of you. You're like, it's no big deal, whatever. And meanwhile, you want him to like feel it.
Hey! Hi, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
Today we are talking a little bit more about being offended. So please go back and listen to that episode. But how being offended actually keeps you stuck because you can't forgive. So the antidote to being offended is to forgive, and then you can move on. But if you are offended and you don't forgive, you remain stuck.
Do tell.
So I could have literally, and I will, probably, I don't even know, probably 25 episodes just on forgiveness. Like that's how like mind blown I've been about it. But today, for the sake of time, our 15-minute little episodes, we are only talking about redefining forgiveness. So I don't know. I'm just going to ask you off the cuff. Like when you say forgive, like what does it mean to you?
Oh, we're changing up
like
the
if
script
you're like,
here.
Just because I think it's really interesting because, by the way, she was not prepared for this. So I probably just figured out. If you don't want to answer, that's fine.
No,
so
I'm just laughing.
Oh, I was going to say, so, like, okay, how about this? So do you think forgiveness is like minimizing what they did to you? Could it be that?
It definitely could be that.
Like if you're going to forgive them, like there's a fear that it might be minimizing what they did to you, or that they would see it as not as a big deal as you think it is because you've forgiven them.
Yeah. I think that's like a fragment of it. It could be.
Okay. Or do you feel like forgiveness is like forgetting what happened? Like you're saying, like, I forget what happened. It's fine.
I do not believe that forgetting. To me, that feels fake.
Okay. And then the last one is that like forgiveness means like you're reconciled. Like the relationship is like, if I forgive you, like we're fine.
No.
You don't feel like that?
No. Because, well, I guess it depends on your definition of reconciled. For me, reconciled means that you have found your way back to each other.
Yes.
Like when you and I didn't speak for a year, and we'll do a whole episode on that. We reconciled when we were speaking again, but I have other people where believe I've forgiven them, but I don't want to spend any time with them again.
Oh, okay. So then you are doing much better than me when it comes to forgiveness. So those were all things that I thought like forgiveness means. And it's, so I thought like when so obviously it's situational dependent, right?
Sure.
Like there's small offenses and there's like large offenses, right? And so I think that your idea of forgiveness, like don't be thinking like when I say like, this isn't somebody took your parking spot kind of forgiveness. This isn't, somebody said something mean to you or whatever. Like think about the people in your life that you really, really feel have wronged you. Like you have so much anger or you have so much bitterness, hate, like just be real honest. Or opposite, you have done something and you have shame, bitterness, like blame, all the things. So for me, forgiveness for me, like I would say, oh yeah, I forgive people. But then again, kind of like I said, I wasn't an easily offended person. And then I was like, oh, I am in fact offended all the time. So when I went into forgiveness, I was like, yeah, I think that I forgive people. But then when I started reading like the definitions, I was like, oh, well, I do sometimes kind of feel like if I forgive someone for something that's really big to me, that like really affected me, I'm like, well, I don't want them to think that it's like not that big of a deal, minimizing, or I don't want him to think that like it's okay what they did. And I don't want them to think like just because I say I forgive you that like we're besties again. So those are the things that I have thought before with the really big stuff. Because you see, we're not talking about the little things. We're talking about the stuff that like keeps you stuck in your life.
Okay. Well, I think one of the questions I have though is, so when you're talking about minimizing that, you're talking about someone who like you could only like the only way to forgive them is to make sure that they knew they still wronged you. Like in some way. Okay.
Yeah. Like sure. It's almost like they need to admit to what they did, right? Like the justice of it or whatever, or they need to understand how much they hurt you.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people, obviously me, feel like that's something that is something that holds me back. So even though I forgive people, I know after reading about this, that it's not a true forgiveness. I may have moved on, but I have not forgiven them.
And would this be kind of the larger picture of people you're thinking about right now? Or is that like in terms of, you talked about like, this is the more like in-depth people, like these are the ones that kept you stuck in your life. Like, is there anyone that you have truly forgiven? Or what you're realizing is who you thought you truly forgiven, you're still kind of working through those three areas?
So like, for instance, I'll give like a few examples. You caught me off with this one. I'm going to have to cross my legs for this. So I feel like with you and I have truly forgiven, and we'll get back to like our disagreements, like our offenses, like what I have done to you and what you did to me. I'm using air quotes. Truly forgiven. Like it never reemerges. It doesn't show up anytime we like get in a tiff. Like that's how I feel like, things are stuck. So that's one of my keys that I know that I haven't truly forgiven someone, because when I think of when we have differing opinions or we have like really emotional conversations, old stuff doesn't come up for me to be like, and what about the time, blah, blah, blah. Like it's truly done, forgiven, gone. Like it has no place in my heart. But like, for instance, with my husband, because we'll use husbands, because that's such a close relationship, I would be like, no, I don't really hold any grudges. But there's things that come up around certain subjects where I have that thing that comes up, and that I have learned that I have not truly forgiven him because I want to say something mean, aggressive, angry, bitter, resentful about something I should have already forgiven him for, because we can't move on with our relationship if I'm still holding on to old ish.
I'm dying right now here because when you were talking and you're like, you're further along in the journey. And I'm like, yeah, I can't really think of anyone that I know. That there's a few where I still struggle and I'm working through it and I'm actively working through it. But ironically, I would have not put my husband on that list. And then you said that and I'm like, oh yeah, just yesterday that came up. And so, okay, I'm with you.
So then I'm like, okay. So then I started going through like, well, obviously it's not reconciliation. We live together and we're still married. So it's not that. So I was like, okay, well, what is it? And I was like, I feel like he doesn't fully understand like his betrayal, to me over a certain thing, that like he said he was going to do something and he didn't. And it was a pattern of saying he was going to do something and he didn't. Right. And there's like multiple things, right, in a marriage of, I don't even know, we just celebrated 15 or 16, or I can't even remember. Such good married people. It's just the point we're still together. So I was like, oh yeah, so some of it is, I just didn't want him to be like, it's almost like I didn't want him to be free of that wrong.
Yes.
Like, I don't want you to be fully, like, I want that to take up a little rent. So you remember next time. Right. And I'm using like the finger because it's like the very bitter, resentful, like, you need to know what you did to me. And both of those things came up for me with him, which was, I didn't want it to be minimized. I needed him to understand what a big frickin' deal it was to me. And I'm saying it because I'm so embarrassed to admit this. And by the way, our husbands approve all these episodes because we share a lot of personal stuff. So we are not going behind the hubs. Both of them actually listen to our podcast, which it's been really good for our marriage. So maybe your husbands need to be listening to this. And then the other thing is like that I'm like letting like that it's just water under the bridge. But what's funny is I just literally said all of our ish is water under the bridge and nothing comes up for me. So it's just been wild to me how much like my definition of forgiveness and how I think about forgiveness really impacts a lot of my relationships that I was not aware of.
Well, so I'd stop you and say, well, one, you said our-ish and you were saying between you and I, but I don't think our listener that can't see you on YouTube wouldn't know that you were saying
come to YouTube and see us.
Our-ish we've resolved, but with your husband. And I think very similarly, I think that the number one thing that I see with what you're talking about, and I think so many of us struggle with this, is the concept of justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the concept, and I know I've talked about this, especially like as a lawyer, there's rarely justice in our world, right? And like, who is justice for? Because in this case, I know you don't want to actually hurt your husband. I know you don't want him to suffer. And yet, I think it's innately human to want justice for things, right? You want someone else to feel the way that you feel. And you want them to experience the sadness, the anger, the frustration. And yet when we're on the opposite side of it, and you're the one who's done something wrong, it's you start minimizing what they would require for justice, right? So like on the flip side of it, you're like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, who cares if I didn't take out the trash cans every day, like every week, like I said I would, and she had to take them out. Like, that's just, why does she keep throwing it in my face? Right. And so I think it's like that flip side of, or that you can look at it, forgiveness on both sides of the justice scale.
Yeah. And so that's more about forgiving yourself, right? So the flip side is do you forgive yourself? So that was the next thing I was going to get into is I was like, oh, I also hold myself a little more accountable than I think I should. Like, I am like, oh, I go above and beyond. And I like literally like not above and beyond. Like I find myself like trying to prove that like, I'm sorry. Like I'm constantly like to where it's like, I'm punishing myself, even though, but not because my husband hasn't forgiven me, but because I haven't forgiven myself for the stuff I've done. So it was interesting how these definitions, the reason I hold such a hard line with everyone else is because I'm holding such a hard line with myself. Yeah. And I feel myself like wanting to overcome. And I think in other situations, because like it's like your husband, right? Either you're getting divorced or you're staying together.
Let's pause for a sec, because I'm super curious. Has there been a time in your marriage where you've committed to do something over and over and over again to your husband and have not followed through?
I'm sure he would say yes, but nothing that like sticks out that I have like deep regret over, I guess, or deep. Yeah.
This is my point.
Yes. Yes.
But I bet that your husband, I bet Jason is like, oh no, I got my laundry list over here.
100%.
You being now on the opposite side. This was kind of my point. Like, right?
Yes.
So no one's ever going to give you justice because in your mind, you're like, what did you say? It was nothing like catastrophic, like no big deal. Right?
Because that's what it is. Because that's what it meant to me. You're totally right. Like, because to me, it wasn't a big deal. To him, it's not a big deal. But to the other person, which goes back to the whole offense episode.
Yes.
He doesn't even see what he's doing to me as like a massive offense and vice versa. So again, that's such a good point.
What I would take from that is when we're upset with someone else and we want them to feel it and we want them to be upset and frustrated and feel that experience with us, they're very likely never going to. So if we keep focusing on them and we don't let that go, we're the only ones stuck. Because look, you're not worried about what Jason thought of you. You're like, it's no big deal, whatever. And meanwhile, you want him to like feel it.
Hey. Yeah, no, you're so right. Because you're so right. Yeah, and that's why I just think I'm so fascinated by all of this like offense and forgiveness, and how we all think that we know how we are. We think we know how we show up, and to be honest, like we all think we're doing a lot better than we are. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but and what I realized is I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm holding on to that stuff. And I don't even realize I'm holding on, because at the end of the day, why does it even matter? Like the stuff I'm holding on to, it's like, then you're not leaving it in the past. You're just taking it, come on,
bringing the wagon along.
I was like, I'm going to put this one in there too, because I don't know what I'm going to need to bring up old Ish.
Well, and I think too, maybe also what happens, and the reason that we're unconscious about it, is we think we've forgiven, and then some situation comes up that was either similar to or something or triggering in some way. And it's like, now you're going to bring your wagon and be like, and I'm going to put this back on you again, because you never resolved this either. And now you've doubled what's on them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's just like redefining what forgiveness is. Like, that's not even like why all the other reasons that forgiveness is hard, which I'll get into those too. And another huge thing that I learned, and I'll wrap it up here, but it has to do with this, is that reconciliation, because that's a really hard one for me. Because, as we all know, connection is where I'm at. I seek connection. I need connection. It's my driver in life. So connection means relationships. So when relationships die, it is really hard for me, whether it's a friend, an acquaintance, family member, like it doesn't matter. It is so hard for me. And I think the reason it's so hard for me is I think that forgiveness and like the reconciliation of forgiveness is like, if you say you're sorry and I forgive you, it's fine. We're back to being besties or whatever. Or like we can, I guess, resume the same relationship we had, whether that be with family or whatever. Like even when you and I had our thing, like we didn't just go back to the way we were. We had to rebuild the relationship. So they have the 3 R's in this book, and it's repentance. Like it's basically reconciliation is 2 people needing to do the same thing. So repentance, which is I did this wrong, acceptance of like what you did or that you feel badly about it. Not that I'm sorry, the general, but like you and I always say, like a true repentance of like, yes, I did this. Or the restitution, like, how can I make this right? Like a wanting to acknowledge it, make it right. And then the third one is rebuilding the trust. So now that you've done those 2 things, now you have to rebuild the trust. And then you might get back to where you were, or you might have a different relationship. And then that goes back to the, like, you're not minimizing or forgetting it. Like you're rebuilding the new relationship based on like what each person's capable of.
Sure.
And that was like so huge for me, because in my experience, most people that I have had fallouts with, or family members, or, when there's been like some sort of tiff, everybody just wants to be like, let's just move on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just sweep it under the rug. Let's just admit we were both wrong. Like there's no like discussion of it.
No
and
repair.
Those 3, and there's no 3 parts that make the other person feel seen and heard. Vice versa, right? Because it's usually 2 to tango. Like it's rare that one person's just totally wrong, right? Like that's very rare. Sorry, friends listening.
Or will admit that they're totally wrong.
Totally, yeah. So I just wanted to say that because it's so helpful for me, because it gave me permission, because we talk a lot about permission, that I can forgive someone and not reconciliate with them because they're not even attempting these 3 R's. Yeah. I might want to do the 3 R's, but if they're not willing to do the 3 R's, you can't have a new relationship with them. So there's no need to. Like, I don't have that guilt, I guess. I have guilt and shame when there's forgiveness on either party, but there's none of those other things. And that's always felt really hard for me because I don't feel good, like, because there's no connection. If you just move on, the connection and the trust, all the things that build connection and relationship are broken, and you just kind of like piece the car back together and keep going. Like, it's not going to work. And it usually ends anyways.
Well, I feel like what you're talking about is there's a framework for you to yes. create a new connection.
Yes.
And you feel like there's something that you can, that's like tangible, that you can say, okay,
yes.
am I doing these 3 steps? Are they doing these 3 steps?
Yes.
And if they're not,
yes.
then it's not going to get repaired, and not reconciling is okay. And there's, like you said, there's a permission yes. there.
Yes.
Now, and if you're not following the framework, you also have talking points to give to someone like, hey,
yes.
at no point
yes.
have you acknowledged that you had some wrong in this situation. At no point are you changing your behavior. You're doing the same thing you were doing before, or yes. you're telling me that I'm just the one in the wrong. Like, we're never going
yes.
to have a true repair of the relationship.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, I feel like we've done two sections of, justice yes. since we discovered something about justice. Yes. And
yes.
then 2,
yes, we did.
I
That's
feel
the
like,
driver.
yeah, like the framework. So kind of what are your takeaways from this?
I think those are my takeaways. My takeaways were, 1, I'm not doing so good at the forgiveness, and I've got a lot of work to do because I do understand that it keeps me stuck. And being stuck sucks.
Yeah.
So it's on me to change the being offended and then working on actual forgiveness. And I know having this framework was really great to identify why I'm not forgiving, and then also giving me a framework, especially when it comes to reconciliation, because connection is so important to me.
Yeah. And I think, let's ask our friend who's listening, based on the definitions that Jen's given today, does it make it easier for you to forgive? Like, are you still holding on to wanting someone else to kind of feel it and suffer? Or are you truly letting go and truly forgiving? So that's it for today.
I hope you got something from my story.
See you next time. Same place, same sisterhood. Bye.
Bye.